Hi, I'm Daphne from Daps Makeup, here to discuss my 2024 disappointments. And no, I'm not calling them fails because I really can't call them fails. Maybe it's because I'm a person who looks for the good and things and people. But the other reason is because these are all products I pay out of my own pocket. I really get gifted makeup products at all. So when I buy something with the intent that I'm going to use it, I'm going to love it. So if I see a product ahead of time that I have a feeling I'm not gonna love, that's not gonna work for me, I'm not gonna buy it. I'm not gonna buy something just to review. I'm gonna buy something that I think I'm going to like. And so for that reason, that's why the overall majority of items that I ever buy, I usually do end up loving. That's why my 2024 favorites video is really long. It's a two-parter. If you haven't already watched that, warm yourself up some coffee, hot cocoa, some tea, some popcorn, and sit and watch that two-parter video. This video is going to be short because, like I said, there's not that many products that I wasn't feeling this year, and these products are not fails. These products are products that I've kept in my collection. I'm still using. I actually even use a lot of them for today's makeup look, and I think I look nice. I figured out how to make it work, or like I said, a lot of these products, it's not so much that I hate, they just didn't meet my expectations. Products I just feel are just okay, or didn't necessarily do what the brand said they was advertised to do, but I still figure out a way to make it work for me. So that's why they're disappointments and not failures. All right, so let's just get started. We'll go through these products. And also one other thing, like I said, don't be offended if I say anything about a product that is your fave. I know for a fact there's a couple of these products that I know are on other content creators' favorites list. So just because they were just, for me, just okay, that doesn't mean that you might not love them. You might end up absolutely loving these products, and so this shouldn't necessarily totally discourage you from getting any of these products. I'm just going to let you know what reason for me they were just okay and didn't quite make my favorites list. All right, let's get started. All right, so the first product we're going to talk about is the YSL Bronzer. Bronzers, especially if you are medium, deep dark person of color, it's hard to find, especially from luxury brands, a good bronzer. Because the issue that always arises is it deep enough for us? I remember when I was making the decision to buy this, I was going back and forth if I was going to buy this or not. The advertisement pictures, some, I would look and I'd be like, that's going to be too light, not going to get it. And then I'd see another picture and I'd be like, wait a second, actually it might work for me. So I was already on the fence about buying this in the first place, but obviously the packaging is what really pulled me in. I'm so in love with this packaging. I've enjoyed the YSL eyeshadows that has a similar but black packaging. So to get this in this beautiful brown packaging, I said, let me go for it. So here it is, and here is the bronzer. So here's the deal with the bronzer. The issue is, yes, the depth, not the formula, the depth of the shade. I will tell you right now, if you are deeper than me, no sis, don't get it. This is not going to work for you. If you are my shade twin, I am Chanel BD 121, Fenty 410, Dior 5N. If you have a similar shade tone as myself, this bronzer will just show up on you. So I would just say, if you choose to get this, proceed with caution. If you're lighter than me, then this certainly could work for you. But if you're my skin tone, ugh. So I normally reserve this. I'll tell you when I normally use this at this point, because I almost returned it, but I decided to keep it. I normally use this when I'm doing a no makeup look, a light makeup look, because it comes up very natural. I'll put it that way. It shows up but it's very natural. I don't use this normally if I'm doing a full glam look. Now, I did use it today because I wanted to show you on camera how it looks. So I did use it today, and you know, like I said, it shows up. It does. It actually does, but it's very natural. It's not gonna give you any, you know, chiseled cheeks or anything like that. And it is a true bronzer. There's no contour action to this, so it's not gonna chisel you in any way. So if you are into a natural bronzer and you're my skin tone, then go for it. But if you want something that is gonna really get you snatched and you're my skin tone, this is a no. If you're deeper than me, I don't care regardless. Natural, no natural, don't go for it. So I actually think the packaging's great. I actually think the formula is lovely, but YSL, we need much deeper shades than this. That's my issue, the shade range. And since we're on the discussion about bronzers and shade ranges, well then of course I gotta bring up Hourglass. Now, if you've been following me and if you watch my favorites list, this was in my favorites. I had this in my favorites. And I was even debating favorites fail, or disappointments. I decided to put this palette in both categories because at the end of the day, I will tell you, this is one of my most used palettes of the year. I use this all the time. I love this palette. And I'll explain to you, in the way I use it, I love it. But in the way this is promoted by the company, that's the issue. So this shade right here, I have to talk about it because they are calling it a bronzer. This is bronzer called Bronze Heat. And I think they came out with at least 3 of these shades. So this is the deeper one, right? So they came out one that's supposed to be for fair, medium, and this is supposed to be for deep. So they're advertising this to be for deeper skin tones. They're advertising this to be a bronzer. This does not work as a bronzer. As deep as this might look, it doesn't. It doesn't. This, honestly, it's my skin tone. And I've had people try to tell me, no, you can make it work as a bronzer. Okay, if I do a true no makeup look and I dig and work my butt off, it can kind of show up, but nobody should be working this hard, okay? Let's make a pact for 2025, at least when it comes to makeup, we're not gonna work hard, we're gonna work less. We should not work hard for this, okay? So I actually bought this knowing ahead of time that this was gonna be a face powder for me. I tried to give it a try as a bronzer, did not work, in my opinion. So for me, this is a face powder. And for that, I do love it. I used it today as well. So what I do after I apply my cream bronzer or cream contour, I will use this to set it, and I use it as a finishing powder. And so I'll use it in the areas of my bronzer, but I don't use it as a true bronzer. So as a palette overall, I love it because it's very well balanced. This is the face powder that I'll use in any areas that I use concealer. This is the powder I'll use anywhere that I'll use a cream contour, cream bronzer. And then we have great highlighters. Now I do also got to talk about this blush section. So this blush right here, gorgeous, love it. This one. This is another one that I could call a fail, but I'll definitely at least call a disappointment. This barely shows up on me. This barely shows up on me. So as you can see, and especially if I blend it, you can barely see that, right? So, when I first started, I was quite disappointed by this one. Now I figured out how to make it work for me. Back to doing a no makeup look. So if I got a tinted moisturizer going on, and then I'll use a face powder, maybe something similar to this tone all over. Even in those cases, you don't want your face to look flat. You want to have still a little bit dimension, even when you're trying to be natural. So then I will apply this like a blush and put it in these areas. Now, nobody's going to know that it won't look like a blush to anybody, but that's the point because I'm going for a no makeup look. So it just provides some warmth, the slightest bit of rosiness, just so that it looks more natural and not one-dimensional. But by no means is this pigmented enough for my skin tone to truly call as a blush. it's almost like it's still part of a face powder kind of action. So I love this palette for how I use it, but in terms of how it's advertised, that's my real issue with it. If you're my skin tone or deeper, this does not work as a bronzer, and this doesn't work as a blush, but as face powders, these work. So that's my feeling on the Hourglass Ambient Lighting Edit Unlocked in the Lotus Flower shade. Now, I was telling you how I truly adore the highlighters in the Hourglass. Let's talk about a highlighter that a little bit of a disappointment. I don't hate it, but once again, I can't say I love it either. This is from Gucci. It's their newest one. It's a Gucci Glow highlighter. They call this, it's more of a gel kind of form. It's gel to powder, I guess you could say, kind of formula. This particular shade that I got is called Frosted Lilac. Now, I know, obviously the color for my skin tone, most people wouldn't pick a frosted lilac. And I knew it was a bit of a risk, but I'm that kind of girl who loves cool tone, purple kind of makeup. My issue actually isn't even so much about the shade, although maybe if I had gotten something that is more golden, I would have loved it more. It's this formula, this gel formula. Not that it's bad, but I think I prefer a more traditional powder kind of formula. It doesn't quite, I don't know, there's something about it that doesn't quite hit right. And you can see with my brushes, like all my foundation, my powder gets onto the palette itself as well. So I don't know, it's okay. It's just, there are highlighters that I love better. If you saw my favorites list, like the one from Dior, oh, now that's a chef's kiss. Now, since I brought up Dior, let's talk about Dior, because I have a lot of products from Dior that's on my favorites list. But I do have a couple that are unfortunately in this disappointment category. Number one, eyeshadow palettes. Now, I have an eyeshadow palette that was a Dior one that was in my favorites. It was like the Paris one, and I bought that for the packaging, but I ended up loving the eyeshadow formula. This one, I think it was their holiday one, I ended up buying it for the packaging, but in this case, I'm not that big of a fan of the palette. This one was the Soir de Bal. It's like nighttime ball, and this is the eyeshadow. I love cool tones, I love mauve colors, but this is very, I think part of it too, maybe it's just very frosty, kind of like the highlighter I was talking about. All these shades are very frosty, there are no mattes, and I can deal with a palette that doesn't have mattes, but I get it, these are all basically satins and shimmers, but they're so frosty. It's nice, but it's just, it didn't quite do it for me. This formula is just okay, and it's just so frosty overall. It's just one that I'm not going to reach for that much, and you're probably better off just using one or two shades. You can't quite use all of them just because it just becomes a bit too much. Dior Lip Balm. I have to tell you, I bought one of these, I think, last year, and I told myself last year, don't buy it. I said to myself I would never buy another one again, and then I did. I was making some other purchases from Dior, and when you get in this situation, if you spend an X amount of dollars, you can get a gift with purchase, and I wanted that gift with purchase, and I was in need for lip balm, and I didn't want to spend too much from Dior, so I was like, okay, this is the right price point, and I didn't need a lip balm, so I bought it so I could get this gift with purchase. It's their normal lip balm. They did get put new packaging this year, so I was like, ooh, new packaging. Very minimal changes to the packaging. You can already look, like, I don't know if you could see this, but like it's breaking apart. It actually broke off. I've said it, this is not the most moisturizing formula. I feel like it's more like a lip primer more than a lip balm. It's not the best. If, at the very least, if you're going to get this, at least get, instead of a clear, because these are really expensive for lip balm, like they have a new shade called Dior Midnight. At least that one, it's a nice, cute little color. But to get the clear in this, it's just not worth the price. All right, and continuing with Dior. So if you've watched my favorite list, I have a Dior Lip Oil in my favorites. So it's not the formula that puts this product in this list, because I love Dior lip oils. I love this this formula. The first one I ever bought, I believe it was called Mahogany. Loved it. The one that's in my favorites called Bronze Glow. Love it. And I get it. Lip oils are not going to be something that has a lot of color and pigmentation. I get it. But the reason why I put this in here is not because the formula is bad, because I do love it. It's the color was just, didn't meet my expectation. I had in my head, and it's my own fault. So this is the lilac shade, it's called. So I had in my head that, you know, that it was going to have a little bit purpley tone, lilac-y tone. So I got excited about the color. I have it on my lips now, and it's basically clear on me. And I get lip oils. They're not that pigmented, especially Dior lip oils are not the most pigmented lip oils out there. But I still feel like my mahogany and my bronze gold, there's something about it that just works with my skin tone that just, I don't know, just gives me a little pop. With this one, not bad, but it's just straight up clear. So don't get it twisted. I'm going to use this all the way up, but I just wouldn't repurchase it in this shade, just because I just think other shades just kind of pop more on my lips. So that was, you know, just my own personal little disappointment there. Got one more Dior palette. This product is actually not that bad. It really isn't. I put this in here because as I was going through all the products, I realized this is a product I just forgot. Like, I forgot it. Like, I haven't used in so long, and it was like the fact that I would forget a product kind of makes me go, then how great is it? I think one other thing too, I think I just need to like reorganize my makeup and put it in a place maybe I'll see it more, because I used it today on my cheeks. It's this beautiful highlighter and blush combo, and I used it today. It's actually pretty. So I hate to even call this a fail. This is in the shade Waldor. The highlighter, first off, is gorgeous. Much better than that Gucci. So I think Dior knocks it out of the park with the highlighter. So actually, I have zero issues with the highlighter. This blush. Now, this blush shade is beautiful. I actually like the shade. I think it's a beautiful tone for my skin tone. It's a beautiful shade for my skin tone. I think my one issue is maybe the reason why I haven't found myself using it a lot. This is very hard pressed. So it's a beautiful shade. I love the shade. But I think it's just so hard pressed. You need the right brush to really pick it up. I just felt like I had to work really hard for it to just show up on my cheeks. When it shows up, it's beautiful, but I just feel like I have to work harder with this particular blush than I have to do with other blushes, and I think that's why it's a little bit of a disappointment. But I do want to push myself to use it more because it is a beautiful shade. All right, now to talk about a brand. It's probably one of my most favorite brands. It's one of my brands that I use probably the most. You'll see reviews on my channel. I have an eyeshadow palette from them that's in my favorites video, but I also had to put them in my least faves because just like Dior, they are very hit or miss when it comes to their eyeshadows, and it is Chanel. I love Chanel for a lot of different types of makeup, but eyeshadow is not their, I would say, their forte, to be honest. It's really hit or miss. So this one was specifically called Coral Treasures. Now, when they had come out with this eyeshadow palette, there was like two of them, and I knew that I was picking the least popular one. There was one that was that had the pop of blue and the more neutral browns and icy shimmers that I know most people picked up, most people loved. And you would think, just knowing me, neutral brown with the pop of blue would be my go-to. I ended up picking this one because I wanted to pick something that was different for my collection. And then with the other palette, although I knew I would love the blue, I was scared that brown was not going to show up on my skin tone. So I went with this instead. And I have used this several times, and I've made cute looks. So I don't like hate this palette. I don't. But it's just okay. The formula is not like spectacular, and I do have to work, and even just to show up on my skin tone, as you can see, then it's not that pigmented. So, I have to be careful about where I place these eyeshadows, that they're not necessarily gonna all go in my transition. So it's about like how I use it, so forth. So I can create some cute looks, but it's not the best formula. It's not the easiest. It's not the most pigmented eyeshadows there. So it's okay. It's nice. you know, I have it, I'm going to use it, but would I say like, oh my God, this is a must-have eyeshadow palette? I can't say that. All right, continuing to talk about eyeshadows, I have 2 more eyeshadows to talk about, and I'm going to tell you right now, these 2 eyeshadow palettes are, I'm telling you, are going to show up on other people's faves. So take what I say with a grain of salt. Just because they were just okay for me, just know that they are actual loves of many other content creators. So you might actually love it, even if for me it was just okay. So it is the new palette that came out this year from Hermes. It was in the shade Mineral. So I'm going to open this up and I'll show you the palette. Okay, so here's a palette. Now this palette is a color story that is right up my alley. So when I saw this, loved it. And I was so excited to get this because this is actually, I have 3 palettes from Hermes. This was the first palette that I ever bought from them. This was Vegetals. This was the first palette I ever bought, and I absolutely loved it. This was like on my faves from last year. So because I love this so much, I immediately jumped to this one. Now, this is not bad. It's not a bad palette, but compared, because my expectation was for it to be like this. And one of the reasons I love this palette is how pigmented it is. This one is not as pigmented. So I'm going to swatch this for you. So here's a brown, obviously very similar to my skin tone. I get it. Here's a shimmer. It shims, but not shimming that much. The green I was super excited for. It's cute, but as you can see, not that pigmented. The blue is probably the most pigmented. The blue is nice. The blue is pigmented. But as you can see, these other ones are not that pigmented. So just to give you a comparison so you can get an idea the difference. So like how different the pigmentation is. I hope you can see, like, these are so much more pigmented. And even the shimmer, even though it's like a similar color, you can see how much more pigmented the original was versus this one. So although I love the beautiful fall color story, and you know, I make cute looks with it, it's just my expectation was to get this level of pigmentation, and this is what I got. Like I said, I know a lot of other content creators love it, and maybe because they don't want their, you know, a lot of luxury beauty content creators don't want something that's heavily pigmented, so they probably appreciate it. It's not as pigmented. And if you're of a fair skin tone, you'll also appreciate it. But as someone with my deep complexion, as someone who loves brands like Pat McGrath, Natasha Denona, a lot of indie brands, you know, I prefer this level of pigmentation over this. And so it's not a bad palette, but it is disappointing. Okay, this is the last product. And this eyeshadow, I'm telling you, I feel like I'm probably the only person that would ever put this in this category. I'm telling you, most luxury beauty content creators have this on their favorites, So just know that you probably will love this palette. And I don't hate it. I honestly don't hate it. The thing about it is this palette, I feel like it was so hyped up, and I got myself so hyped up that I just found myself just going, oh, it's okay. I don't hate it. It's beautiful, but it's just okay. And so just because of the hype, the cost, that, you know, I think my expectations were just too high. So you won't believe it, BYO, Mineral Scapes. This is my first large palette from BYO. I've gotten their 5 pans, and even those I actually like those, and I know people hate those. And this one is like so my color story too. So it's crazy that I would even put that here. I ended up using it today for my eye look, and I actually like my eye look. So, you know, I almost like question if I should even do this, put this in this video, but I decided to go with it anyway, because at the end of the day, when I think about this year, I haven't grabbed this palette that much. There's so many other palettes I was constantly grabbing, and this one I rarely picked up. And it's not a bad palette. Like I said, I like this look. It's nice. I think, like, number one, there's only 2 matte And don't get me wrong, I get plenty of palettes where they're not all matte, but it would have been nice when you had this large of a palette. You know, it's one thing if I get a quint or quad and there's not many mattes, but when you have a palette that has like, what, maybe like 18 shadows in here, that there's only 2 mattes. And the 2 mattes we have, although they show up on me, but they are light. They're, you know, it would have been nice to maybe have like a more traditional brown, a deeper brown, something to give some more depth, because especially on my skin tone, these two, yeah, they show up, but you know, they just show up, especially this one, you know, they just show up on my skin tone. So it would have been lovely to have something more pigmented. There's a lot of kick up with these. I can deal with it, but just so you know, these are very powdery, kick-uppy. I mean, the mattes kind of remind me of the YSL quads, that powdery kind of texture, which I do like the YSL eyeshadow. So it gives a very ethereal, soft eye look with the mattes. I think also probably in my head, I was thinking I was getting this really this palette of shimmers, and it's really more satins. There's maybe a couple of shadows in here that I could truly call a true shimmer, but most of these are really satins. So it's pretty, but it's soft. And I think I had in my head a different expectation. And so it just wasn't what I was expecting. It's not bad, it just wasn't what I was expecting. You know, and then this might have also been affected by the fact that like, so this was, you know, selling out like crazy. I heard all the hype and I was scared I was going to miss out on it. Instead of just being patient and waiting for it to come to US retailers, I ended up purchasing it from an overseas online retailer. I ended up paying a lot of money in shipping, and then I almost didn't receive it because customs wanted to hold this up. It was a whole ordeal. I went through a lot to get this palette, so that might have affected things because I paid a lot of money for this, went through a lot to get it, and then I was just like, oh, it's a nice palette. I don't hate it, but you know, when you just build something up so high and then it's just like, oh, okay. You know, there's so many other eyeshadow brands that are much more affordable and easier to get, that I feel like are just as good, if not better. But using it today, I will say, it made me say, you know what, I need to use this more. Actually, using a lot of these products made me go, you know what, they're not bad, so I need to use them more. They just weren't on my absolute favorites list. So that's my opinion. Like I said, take everything I say with a grain of salt, you know, and, you know, just make the choices that are best for you. But that's my feelings on my disappointment of 2024. So otherwise, if you haven't already subscribed, hey, consider subscribing to my channel. If you have been following me all this year, I really appreciate you. I hope you guys had a great and wonderful holidays, and I'm wishing you all the best in the new year. So I'm just going to end up saying, have a great day. Bye.